It's 4:37, and I will call the meeting to order. Hopefully, we have a few more people who jump in the meantime. And Kim, I don't know if you have a flag and can throw that up there for the pledge.
I do not have a flag. Sorry.
Oh.
I'll have one for the future.
Here, give me a second. And can I? Give me a sec. All right.
I made you the co-host, so you're.
Oh, excellent. So
you're good.
Kim, could you email me a copy of the agenda now, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
You know, my agenda, I think, ended up in my spam. I had to recover it. So it was just, it didn't like Kim for some reason.
Who knows?
Yeah, I had the same issue. I had to go dig it out and
Yeah,
put the email in there.
Strange.
And I love it how it's not, sometimes it's like that and other times it works fine. So I'm going to take your pick.
There you go. Pick your flag.
There
Pick your flag.
If I click on one, I have no idea where it's going to take me. So we're just going to we'll leave these all up here and I will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. So I will close that. And I do have the agenda right up here real quick. All right. So I would like to welcome our guests. So we do have a guest from Marathon Engineering. Want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and so we know who we're talking to in a few minutes?
Yeah, Lucas from Marathon. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. And I'll be presenting on behalf of Dan and Debbie Gill regarding the residents on Davidson Landing.
Okay, all right, welcome and thanks for joining us this afternoon. I have nobody emailed dying to be the vice chair. So we'll keep that rolling for right now. And I think, like I've said, that's something that we'll just keep rolling forward. Susan, was that your hand up saying you wanted to be the vice chair, or were you just scratching?
No.
Okay, yes.
No.
Just checking. All right, so the minutes from April 1st, 2021. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on them?
Nope. I don't think so.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Updates from the webpage.
We made some updates to the webpage, inserting the description of the board with all your comments, and added the information on a spotted lanternfly monitoring, as well as an update on gypsy moth spraying. Kim added some beautiful pictures of some spring flowers, and I would welcome others to submit any interesting photos from the town for a future display. And with Kim's help, I'm going to be kind of consolidating some of the information in the web page, and we'll run that by folks at a future meeting.
Okay. All right. Thank you for all your work on that and everybody for their input. All right. This brings us to our first privilege of the floor. And seeing that we don't have anybody other than who's part of the agenda, we will move on from that. We don't have anybody from the development office for a report. Hopefully, we do have our new planner who has been working and has attended a few meetings. If anybody was at the resources training the other day, we had our new planner at the meeting attending, which is great. So hopefully when she's up and running, we will have her as part of these meetings, and she can be another conduit helping us with any questions that we might have. At this time, we have no active referrals from the town board. Do we have anything? Nothing came forward from the CIC. Anybody have anything new to add if there is anything from the CIC as far as referrals?
I missed the CIC this past Tuesday, so I'm unfortunately, I'm not in the loop from Tuesday's meeting.
Okay. And I have not gone back. I've watched a few of the other ones, but I have not gone back and watched that one yet. And we do not have any referrals from the ordinance committee at this time. All right, so that takes us to our PRC reviews and our project reviews, and we will start out with CPN 21-034. And one thing, we're going to make a concerted effort with these after our discussion and after we come to a consensus on the recommendations that we have. We will have a motion and we will have a vote on each of these as a committee to make it an official action and an official recommendation. So we have Lucas from Marathon Engineering, and he is representing Dan and Debbie Gill. And this refers to the property at 4495 Davidson Landing Drive. So Lucas, what we typically do is we go through a review, we look at the property, and then we have we share the review and the summary and the recommendations that have been written. And then if you have any questions or have any, so you can kind of fill in any of the missing gaps and answer to any of the suggestions or questions that we might have on the parcel.
Awesome.
Okay. So if this order is correct, look at that. Did you notice that, Gary? Look, it's right there. Isn't that amazing? They might all be preloaded in here. Okay, so we have 4495 Davidson Landing Drive. So let's also, this is the location. I will bring up some images. Is it Justin or Sarah Linda who will be sharing on this one?
This is what I did.
Okay. So you go ahead, Sarah Linda, and direct me, and I will.
Okay. If you go to the board site, yes, let's look at the photos to begin with. Down at the very bottom there. And I just looked at them myself and realized that only one of the photos, I sent a group of photos, but only one of them got loaded onto the board site. So this is what we
Okay.
have. But anyway, just for background, this is a one of two properties that traditionally have been sort of owned and managed by a single family. The parcel to the south of it has the house that's been there for a long time. And this parcel to the north has two things on it. One is a relatively small house, which has been functioned as a guest house. And it also has a tennis court, and it has a fair amount of lawn area and then some beach with boat hoists and so on. The proposal is to expand the cottage that's on the site now into the area where the tennis court is now. So they will be removing the tennis court, and that's all impermeable surface. So much of that impermeable surface will be occupied by the house, but some of it will become lawn area. So the net result is that the amount of impervious surface on the lot is going down rather than going up. The project also includes a new driveway coming off of Davidson Landing and coming down into a attached garage. And the second part of it is to add a 30 by 40 pickleball court. So we're going from tennis to pickleball, plus a sizable house here. There is one area variance requested for building coverage. The maximum permitted in this area is 15%, and the proposed buildings add up to 20.6%. So so there's a variance of 5.6% that they're requesting on building coverage. The existing building coverage is only 7.3%, and that really is just the little guest house. So building the tennis court doesn't count as a building. I mean, it's not a building. So they're in good shape on lot coverage. The existing lot coverage is 41%. That includes the house plus the tennis court. the proposed lot coverage is 39%. So, and even though the maximum permitted under the code is 25%, so these are both significantly above what is permitted if this were a new development on the site. But the town's policy is that if you have a pre-existing condition and you're making it better, then even though you're above the maximum that would be indicated for new construction, that's still considered to be okay. They will more or less give you an automatic waiver of that. So there's no issue about lot coverage, but building coverage is the place where they're requiring a area variance. Let's see. The project does include a couple of measures that are particularly environmentally friendly, you might call them. One is a rain garden, which is down here in this area closer to the lake. And the other one is down there. No, it's just above there.
Right there.
Right there. That's the rain garden.
Tiered garden.
So the roof drainage, the gutters and leaders and so on will be draining directly into that rain garden, as well as the pickleball court. And the porch, which is closest to the lake there, that is going to have a green roof. So that's another kind of nod in the direction of being environmentally friendly. And in terms of trees, there will be several trees removed in the location where the new driveway is going to be and where the house is going to be, but they are protecting and keeping a significant number of trees there right up along Davidson Landing and also along the northern edge of the parcel. I don't see right now there's a kind of a pavilion building, a little down near.
Down here?
Yeah, down there. Maybe Lucas can answer that. Is that going away?
They're removing the pavilion.
The pavilion, okay. And they're just with this thing that's labeled deck. Those what are those? Just kind of wooden structures?
They're currently connected to the gazebo, but those are to remain.
Oh, okay. Those are existing to remain.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and they have a fairly sophisticated planting plan for replacement of the trees that are going to be lost as a result of the project. So that's later on in the site plan. Environmental concerns. The ECB generally discourages development projects with building coverage above the town's requirements due to the potential for water quality degradation from runoff directly into the lake during heavy storm events. So that's the principal environmental concern. And the removal of the impermeable tennis court provides an opportunity for bringing this property into compliance with the town's building coverage requirements. But the applicant fails to capitalize on this opportunity, opting instead for maximum impermeable surfaces under the town's policy on pre-existing conditions. So that's kind of a lost opportunity there. Giving up the tennis court could be a way of, significantly improving the building coverage character of the site, but not going to happen. So the draft recommendation is this. ECB appreciates the use of the rain garden and the green roof and the sensitive handling of the existing trees on the site. However, we oppose the building coverage variance of 5.6% and ask that the applicant reduce the size of the new construction to bring the project into compliance. We continue to encourage the ZBA to take a firm stand in favor of limiting new buildings to the permitted size. Every building coverage variance that is granted just encourages the trend toward homes that are too large for the lot, a trend that makes the lakefront more congested and potentially degrades water quality. We recommend that the applicant also consider further measures to promote infiltration, such as permeable paving for the driveway and the pickleball court.
Okay, so Lucas, do you have anything that you would like to share? Any comments based on that? And then we'll open it up to any other questions that anybody might have or any comments that people might have based on the recommendations that Sarah Linda shared.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's a pretty thorough overview of the project. Perhaps some things that I'd add are we have explored permeable paving in this area. It is difficult to implement in a freeze-thaw cycle area, but we have explored and removed a number of impermeable areas in order to bring this area down. And this is discussed more in the letter of intent, but the house plan has gone through multiple iterations to sort of scale it back to something that's still meets what the landowner needs, but is a reduced version of what we originally had come up with. So it has gone through this iteration of trying to pare it down and keep it to what's necessary for this lot to function as a separate lot. It's one of the only lots on this private drive that doesn't have a full-time residence or a residence that's capable of full-time living. The structure on this lot wouldn't support any sort of summer-long or year-long life on the property. So, and then one other thing that we've been sort of working on as the building plan gets developed and as it reaches its probably DD level of design, is creating points in the roof system that are slatted, where we have roof overhangs over the entry walkway, opening those up and creating more of like a terrace roof way that allows sunlight and rainwater to come through and land in the garden area. I don't know if we could technically say that it's no longer part of the building because it is part of the roof structure, but it becomes an impermeable part of the building. So that's why it doesn't affect our building coverage request, but it is another thing that we've been exploring with the building of how do we justify this request of a bigger building than is allowed. And so that's one of the areas that we've done that. Another thing that probably doesn't show up on the application is another environmentally friendly effort that the Gills are making is exploring geothermal heating and cooling for the home. Being next to a lake and in this area is a great opportunity to take advantage of that. That doesn't reduce rainwater impacts, but it does reduce a lot of other impacts like energy impacts and air quality. So, that's another effort that the client has been making. But I think I'll just close up by reiterating the stormwater treatment elements that we're implementing are a direct effort to mitigate the coverage. We understand that coverage impacts rainwater, and so these facilities that aren't required by code but that are being implemented in order to offset the coverage on the lot to help promote high quality rainwater and treatment on the property before it goes off into the lake. So just about every square foot of impervious on this property, certainly most of the new impervious will go through that rain garden, which allows it a chance to be filtered and before it's discharged to the lake. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to jump into them. I could probably talk too long about this project, so I'll hand it back over. Thanks.
So does anybody have any questions for Sarah Lena's recommendations or for Lucas?
Lucas, I have a question. You briefly mentioned that you were skeptical about permeable paving. And I wonder if you could elaborate on that, because certainly the amount of the proposed concrete driveway and the area of the pickleball court if they could be made permeable, that could essentially eliminate your need for a variance. And this is something that the ECB has been talking about, and the planning board also, for quite some time, but we probably are not as technically up to speed as we should be on just what you mean by permeable paving and what the arguments against it are, because it seems like a good solution. I mean, for instance, with the driveway, if they were to use those pavers that have grass, it's like a concrete block set on the side and then with grass coming up through the center, that kind of thing would definitely allow for a great deal more impervious or more infiltration, and therefore cut down on your building coverage.
Yeah,
It's not building coverage, I'm sorry, that's lot coverage though.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
But to answer the question, we have concerns when impermeable areas that are used structurally are implemented as a pervious product, because all pervious pavements, what makes them function is having good drainage. So either that is highly infiltrating soils, or it's some sort of a stone base with under drains that allows water to get out from under that. That would certainly be implemented here, but any area where you have a freeze-thaw cycle and you're going to see any water that is potentially trapped or does not have time to get out before you have a freezing event, which here we often have damp areas going back and forth between being frozen and being thawed. We have concerns about those holding up in a driveway setting, for example. They're better implemented, in our opinion, in walkway areas that are supporting pedestrians and not necessarily vehicles. So that is our hesitation in implementing them. And there's also the element of a lot of these driveways have higher slopes than you typically have for a walkway or for the pickleball court, for example. And the higher slopes are also not ideal for most impermeable products I've seen. They recommend a 2% slope, 2 to 4% slope. So that's another challenge with going to anything other than this is going to be a concrete driveway. And so, yeah, we're very hesitant to implement a permeable product on something that's got to support a driveway at this sort of tricky topography. The pickleball court is a good option. It's one that we explored for this property. But again, a product that on a pickleball court, it's essential that the surface remains level, as opposed to like a stone walkway that you might have. The pickleball court can't have any changes in grades, and a lot of the permeable products that we see being used effectively are in a paver setting, as you mentioned. And so in that case, you run the risk of there being ledges in the play surface. And so it just ended up not being an ideal opportunity to implement that. So I guess my response being, we explored that on this site, but the two primary areas of impermeable area were not good candidates for an impermeable product.
Did you consider permeable asphalt?
Yeah, that's one of the options. Yeah, I haven't seen it used effectively. The advantage of pavers is that they can be cast in a controlled environment in a factory, and so you can get the correct required amount of permeability. A pavement product that's being applied in the field, especially at unique slopes like this property,
If you're interested in seeing, there is a great deal of that sort of installation in the city of Syracuse in all kinds of places, and it seems to work quite nicely. I've seen some basketball courts in public parks that were made with permeable asphalt, which are nice and level. And they're also quite silent because the permeability reduces the sound. I would recommend you take a look at that kind of product for an application like this.
Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, and this may be sort of an aside, but the products in this market are changing quickly and getting much better quickly.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't want to make a blatant statement that that they don't work well around here, because you're right. They do, and they can. But on this site, we ruled them out for the reasons I mentioned. But I appreciate that that suggestion of looking at those Syracuse sites.
There's another example closer to home, and that is on the campus of the Finger Lakes Community College. If you go down to the the concert shell, and then go immediately north of the concert shell towards the rest of the campus, there's a substantial area which looks like a plain asphalt rectangle, but it is a permeable form of asphalt. And there's a little interpretive sign there that says this is a permeable platform here. I don't know who did it or how well it works, but at least it's nearby if anybody wants to do it.
Soil and Water Conservation did that a number of years ago. It is usually used as a space to erect a tent above that, so that and it seems to have worked quite nicely for a long number of years. Yes, you're right. I'd kind of forgotten that was there. I've been to the Syracuse Zoo lately, and there's an immense amount of permeable asphalt in that area there. In the parking lots and all over the place.
So does anybody have any other questions or comments based on Sarah Linda's recommendations? Are there any amendments or any proposed amendments to what she put out? Okay, so, all right, so I guess right now I will propose a vote. And can I get a motion to approve the recommendations by the ECB for Marathon Engineering's project on 4495 Davidson Landing Drive, number 21-034.
So move.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right, the motion carries for those recommendations. Okay, all right, thank you, Lucas, for coming in.
Thanks for your time.
We appreciate your time, and good luck with everything.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Okay, item number 21-035. This is Mark's Engineering, and it is for the property on 3535 State Route 364. And I'll bring up a visual. And the property is right there. So as you can see, there's Letiziana, Sandy Beach, and it's this rectangle right there.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like that one's you.
Yeah, I'll just run through what I had there. So for the summary of the key points, it is requesting a single stage site plan approval for construction of 2 family residences, as well as 116 townhomes that'll be constructed on the 33-acre lot that is there. As part of the development too, it'll be connecting New York State 364 with County Road 18. It'll be a drive-through. And in doing so, this is going to be kind of a multi-municipality development that they're going for with, I believe it's Hopewell and Gorham on the two eastern portions that are there. And you can see on there, there's additional townhomes that are going to be, I think, single homes that are going to be built there, not in the town of Canandaigua, but in the other municipalities. I guess first off, it's quite a big development going in off of 364 there. And it's a relatively, well, it is undeveloped property there, and just going through the open space plan and the various maps, the first thing that stands out is most of the area is successional northern hardwood forest. And I think we had a couple photos on there. Were those the ones that you took, Gary, or were those ones that were already in there?
No, those are ones that I took.
I took a few also.
Did
Oh, you
they,
did? Okay.
did they come up in here? Because this is where
Oh, I don't see them there.
I don't see them in the I don't see them in the folder,
Okay.
and I don't.
Yeah, there was a few of them that I saw in
21035.
there.
That
Yeah.
was the sketch plan before,
Yeah, but I don't see the.
no photos.
Yeah, I don't see any link for any
Mhm.
photos in here. We have the petition to rezone, sketch plan, seeker, and the
Okay.
submission letter.
That's weird. Yeah, they were there earlier.
Yeah, if you scroll up,
Jared, go higher up, because I think there might be another
yeah,
whole.
CPN.
Is there another folder for that?
Yeah,
Yeah, 035.
Not it.
Keep going.
Okay, right.
There it is, there it is.
Okay,
For
there we
ISO,
go.
there you
All right,
go.
thanks, guys.
The
Yeah,
bottom two are the photos.
there's
Okay.
photos, yeah.
so those are some newer photos. I didn't actually see some of the other photos that were on there.
Mhm.
All right, We've got the hardwoods.
Yeah, and it looks like there was a little stream going through there.
Yeah, there was a
anything.
swale at the base of the property, which then forms a more organized stream, which goes through the adjacent mobile home park. It's pretty wet. I mean, they'd laid railroad ties for kind of a path going through that area. Again, the trees are mostly ash, but some healthy looking shagbark hickory and some oak, a little cluster of red cedar in one place, but a lot of undergrowth, as you can see.
I see a lot of invasives that are in there as well.
Yeah. I still got scratches on my arms from the Multiflora rose.
Does the entire 22 acre look like these pictures?
It does.
It does.
Yeah, and there's farmland, which I think is active at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you, right up here, both sides, right here and here.
Yeah.
But this is not, the line is right here, pretty
Mhm.
much, give or take.
Town
So-
line,
The town ends right in this general area here.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, so another concern I had just from looking at those photos, because I couldn't correlate it to any maps. I mean, that kind of looked like a wet meadow area that was there with the stream running out of it. And I don't
At the
know, that's obviously going to get taken out when they do all of this. And I don't see any kind of delineation or anything being proposed in there, but obviously if it's not showing up, it's not state or federal. Just something curious going through photos and whatnot.
I believe there's some more photos available there.
Yeah, this is the other one. And for some reason, it's not liking that one.
5/5/12, okay,
There we go.
okay, this is what it looks like from 364.
Right.
There's a little-
Right.
It seems kind of flat. Actually, you don't realize how steep it is from down at
Mhm.
364. It kind of goes down a little bit and then it goes up.
Yeah.
So go ahead with those. There's several. That's it's been cleared in a swath along the road, and then there are a couple other single-family homes built up with part of the road frontage.
Mhm.
So there you can get a bit of an idea of the terrain in the back.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be pretty much uniform, kind of relatively immature forest.
All right, so I'll go back to.
So I guess with the wet portion, that kind of goes along with what we have in there for just the soil classifications, from looking at the maps. I mean, that lines up with what you see as poorly draining soils. Just identified there as I don't know if I pronounce it right, but the Candea loam, and then there's the Darien silt loam, generally just poorly drained soils. So that probably lines up with where those swales are, or that large dip before you get on the steep part of the property. Which obviously is going to have a medium to high erosion potential, which is a concern when they get going with the development. It does have portions that are pretty steep sloped. Some areas noticeably when there's a break up there of the property where there really isn't any townhomes being proposed. In that area, it's greater than 25%. I know in reviewing the video, they're saying that the majority of the road is going to maintain an 8% slope all the way up to the top. So obviously they're going to be doing a lot of grading and filling to accomplish that when they put that in. The other thing is just, I think from reviewing the video from the PRC is there was some concern with access for the fire departments. So they've added on as a townhomes to have more connectivity, which obviously increased the overall paved area on the site, as well as they had a proposed, I think it was, 3-to-1 parking space per unit that they were putting in there as well. So obviously there's a large amount of paved area, and overall there was, I think, over half of the acreage was going to be graded or developed at some point through the project. I guess as for our recommendations, we would hope that the applicant would minimize any disturbance or development, especially in the steep slope areas. And it kind of looks like they are, because we're avoiding building on the steepest part of the area. But obviously everything below that threshold would be developed so that any water coming off would just move through the area. The current design for the roadway, and I know we brought this up before, is when it's just a straight shot like that, in these high intensity storms, you're just looking for trouble, because you can design all you want with the outlets for it and the drainage ponds, but portions of that are going to run straight down that hill and that roadway and cause potential hazards for 364. So part of the recommendation would be that if they could explore some additional design to mitigate water runoff, down that straight shot road in the 364, that would be, better considered. And I think that was brought up too with the PRC. So that might be something that they're looking into further as well. And then lastly, any efforts that they could make to further promote infiltration at the property to offset, all these paved areas, that would be something to consider. I know they got the large pond in there, and some drainage swales and some other designs, but it's a large area with lots of water, and once it gets going, it's going straight down to the lake, basically. Yeah, so this current photo, it's changed a little bit from that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed about the site plan was that it's very regimented. I mean, it seems it's just these blocks of rectangular buildings marching down the hill, and except for the very bottom one, each one of these side drives that comes off of the main drive serves the front of one set of buildings, but it also is adjacent to the backs of the next set of buildings. All the buildings are oriented the same. which is not really very sound planning. And if they were to reverse half of the building so that you would not need a separate driveway for each of those tiers of buildings, but rather one driveway could serve a building up and down. Then you would have fronts facing fronts and backs facing backs, which is in general planning terms, a much more sound approach, I think. You know, you want public, semi-public space to be in one part and the more private backyards to be in another part, not having backyard and front yard kind of mixing in with each other. So I think making some changes along those lines would could be made to result in less paved driveway area, in addition to making the units and the general character of the community a little nicer.
Looks like Army barracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the contractor that would be doing the work, I guess they have several jobs going on up in Webster. So this may just be a copy and paste that they brought down from there to kind of tuck in here and make it work for this site as well.
Yeah, I think one on Cuca Lake too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're leased properties, $1,500 a month. Is there demand for this type of residence?
Are those the one, Gary, across from Red Jacket Park in Yan?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, you build it and they will come, I guess.
Yeah,
Well, they seem to be filling up. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I worry about too. I mean, I know it's not, it is environmental, but from when the project first came through, all I can think about, I know they exit up on the top, but I'm thinking about traffic as well. Concert nights, other nights, good luck. Good luck turning south out of here. Any of that. That's a lot of homes dumped in a tiny little area.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hate to see the trees, maybe they're immature at this point in time, but those trees are maturing.
Yeah. You could cut maybe a row or two of these and space them out a little bit and have a wooded buffer or something, at least some sort of landscape buffer in between, instead of some of them, like they have the swale coming through here. That's it.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see when it moves along the landscaping plan that would accompany it. Obviously we'd want to see that and what they're doing to mitigate all that loss of vegetation that's there now.
Justin, did you get a sense that the drainage off the farm fields would go through this area? It is going through this area now. I guess I didn't look at the maps closely enough.
No, I mean the soils, what they are. A lot of it, will just move down the hill.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're just going to have a turf lawn there and not trees, basically, they're not going to be able to hold up as well.
Right.
Yeah, just that mass clearing, I guess, is a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It seemed more to maximize units, like you had mentioned, than to kind of really take into consideration the habitat that's there in the surrounding area.
So this is the area that a while back they were talking about focusing on a more of a mixed use in residences, the mixed use overlay, was it not? This particular parcel, when we were talking about maybe preferred areas in our town to direct development to. This was one of those areas, was it not?
Well, I'm trying to remember where, I don't have the zoning map pulled up, but where the MUO stretches.
Yeah, we were looking at a few on this side of the lake.
Yeah.
But the time goes by, I mean, even years go by and we talk about these things, and
Right.
But I think this was the newer one they were wanting to get a more varied use for.
Or was it further up near Star Cider in that area? I don't know. No, because that's I mean, that's right in here. That would
It's
have been
probably
just,
on our zoning map somewhere.
yeah. I mean, you do have, if you just drop across the street and head north a little bit, and you have the condos that are all the golf view or golf
Yeah, yeah.
access there. But I agree kind of like with what Justin was saying and others that, you know, even just tweaking a little bit,
Mhm.
pulling back the scale a little bit, you'd
Not
preserve a
packing
heck
it
of a
in
lot
so
more.
tight. Mhm.
You'd preserve a heck of a lot more. You're already getting more bang for having the multi-units in there, but scale
Yeah.
back, preserve some of the natural, maybe even a
Mhm.
little turn in the road to slow down the runoff.
Mhm.
Yeah, Justin's right. That street looks like a water chute coming down.
The kids are gonna love it in the wintertime.
You know, and you get enough, especially down here, you get enough of those rains or the snow and the runoff, and no matter what you do, it's going to be an issue.
We haven't had one of those gully washers in a while.
Don't say that too loud.
I know. It's still, winter's not over yet.
They're gonna-
Totally.
Tempting
They're-
fate.
They're going to be surfing down the steps at FLCC again before you
I'm
know
gonna
it.
be sorry I said that, right?
So does anybody have any other comments or thoughts on this? So additional recommendations, what are we going to add to Justin's comments? We're going to add anything to add into there?
Yeah, and I guess this is preliminary, so we're gonna be seeing it again, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Well, this is not a sketch plan, though. like
No,
The other one, this is, they're actually looking
the
for
site
site plan
plan.
approval.
Well, it's already been approved by the town board and passed. It's been voted on and moved on to the other areas. Like,
Mm.
okay,
so it's already gone through that step.
Mhm.
And that's right, because, okay, now I feel stupid. I answered my own question. Because it was approved by the town board, it's in the MUO. So there you go.
Okay, there we
There's our
go.
answer.
Yeah.
There you go. So it is in that area.
Jared, do you know if there was any consideration by the applicant into making this a conservation subdivision?
That did not come up. So it did not come up in any of the discussions, so I do not know.
Is that something we should consider suggesting?
Well, at this point, it may be too late. I mean,
yeah,
if the town board has already endorsed this plan, then,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? That the planning board is, maybe has its hands tied to a certain extent. But I think the recommendations, you know, give the planning board a reasonable idea of some of the concerns that we have from an environmental perspective.
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, scale it back and add some more green, but
Yes, landscape. yes.
yeah, landscape, you know,
I was going to say, does ugly count?
yeah,
That's-
yeah, and it's,
You need to reword that a little softer, Edith.
Yes, I'm sure.
yeah, I don't think we can write that
Sounds a
down.
bit harsh, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we can type that in
But it
here.
sprang to mind.
Yeah,
How about just consider aesthetics?
yes,
Yes.
consider aesthetics.
Consider the aesthetics of it.
yeah, I mean, a portion of it will be viewable from the lake, so I'm hoping that.
It
is
will be,
considered.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
That upper part's gonna be right in there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, okay, so any other discussion on this? All right, so can I get a motion to approve the recommendations for 21-035 at 3535 Route 364?
So
I
moved.
will move.
Can I get a
Or I'll
second?
Whichever.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, okay. All right, so the next one is 21-037. Let me close a couple of these out so my computer doesn't have a fit. Is this one even, did this one get pulled? The Woolhouse Road?
Oh, that,
Yeah, I believe it
No.
did.
Okay.
What
Yeah.
got pulled?
You did 4157 Woolhouse Road. It's a single family home.
Oh, really?
I didn't see any of our information on it, and I
Oh.
remember us discussing it's this one right here,
Yeah.
but we didn't get a report written up on it. It's still on here, but
Hmm.
we don't have a report to go over.
Hmm.
yeah, I took a look at that and I didn't understand why the PRC had referred it to the ECB, because they typically don't in situations where it's just a single family home.
Yeah.
So I raised the question and I thought the answer I got was, yes, you're right, it shouldn't go to the ECB. But
Oh,
apparently
okay.
that idea never made it onto the agenda.
Yeah, it never got past, because yeah, I mean, it seems pretty
straightforward.
straightforward, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is the amount of trees that are gonna be impacted, just where it is on that hillside. That's the only reason, and I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess we'll see
I don't know.
if it comes back, or if it just keeps going forward.
Okay.
All right, so there you go. That saves us some time. So we don't have to look at 3 hours tonight, everyone. I know that'll make everybody happy. All right, so I will close that out. All right, the next one is 21-038. And this is the Wilkin Property Parish Street Extension, which here's the map. No, that's the other one.
Now, just to interrupt, are we talking about the country club too?
Yes, the
Right.
Country Club. Did I skip the country? Yeah, I skipped. Let's go back to the Country Club. I skipped that one. Sorry about that. I got out a little bit out of order. So here is the Country Club, and we are talking about right here. So yeah, let's go back to 21-036. Now, is that an error? Because this shows up as 3280. The listed on the agenda, it's 2380. Is this a separate number? I don't know that it makes a difference, but I'm not sure if this is all 3280 or if that's a different number.
No, I think that's a typo on the agenda.
Okay, so it's 3280 Fallbrook Park.
That's the country club's address, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that is right. This parcel is right here. Let me close out some of these. And then right here. All right, here are a few of the photos. And I think Sarah Linda, do you have this one?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If you want.
Let's just go through the pictures. These are Gary's pictures. This corner of the country club property has got a 40 by 80 concrete slab that was put in maybe 2 or 3 years ago, with the idea that a tent structure could be erected on top of that. And they have been quite successful with that and attracted a fair amount of wedding business. And so the proposal is to put a permanent roof over the existing concrete slab. If you go back to the site plan for a minute.
Give me 1 second. I did not have that one up yet.
Okay, yeah, that's good. The setback for the concrete slab and the lake is only something like 27 feet. And there also is a stream along the southern edge of the property. That's Fall Brook, which comes down from the FLCC property. And this long, thin building along the southern edge of the of the property is they're calling it utility barn. It's essentially a long building with a series of overhead doors on the side toward the parking lot. So that's where they keep their vehicles, whatever. So the proposal is to make a permanent roof over the event tent location and to take the westernmost edge of, or the westernmost section of the utility barn and create a what they call a line kitchen or a service area that could be the focus for the food services when they're having a wedding in the event tent area. And there also would be restrooms in there. So instead of people having to go all the way back to the clubhouse, they'd have a bathroom and there'd be kitchen arrangements there. So that's the basic project. The setbacks from both, so the lake setback 22.8 feet and the stream setback isn't shown here, but it's also well below the 100-foot minimum. So those are existing conditions now. They're not making them any worse. And they're, you know, something that we're more or less stuck with. Let's see.
Could I interrupt just one moment? There is a more detailed site plan, Jared. There's a couple different sheets in that packet.
Okay,
So just go into the site plan and then there's the engineering design. There you go.
right down here. Perfect,
Yes.
thank you. Yep.
There's some tie distances on that one, Sarah Linda, to Fall.
Yeah, 41 feet from the
Yeah.
from Fallbrook.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can see there's a certain amount of reconfiguration here of the landscaped area that's between the two buildings and between the buildings and the parking lot. So they're going to be adding pavers in some places, removing pavers in other places. But the net result is it's approximately the same on impervious surfaces. And the tent building will still be an open air building. It will be like, it'll have, you know, roll up sides or removable sides or something like that. So it's still essentially an outdoor facility, but covered.
Covered.
Yeah. And if you go back to the photos, then let's just look at the rest of them. So here, that's the lake side. There it is with the tent structure up, and you can see all the deck chairs out there. And I'll go to the next slide or picture. There it is again, and this green building off to the left is where the restrooms and the utility kitchen will be. And there's some nice plantings there in between. This is the end of the utility barn. Those plantings are going to stay the same, right, Pat?
I do not know. I do not know.
We'll go back to the site plan and look at that. But this
Yeah.
is again the space between the stream and the utility building, and this is the space between the slab and the lake. So they are a fair amount up above the lake level. And they've even it looks like they've even created a slight berm there to avoid flooding out that section of the property in the event of really high water. So yeah, they don't show that stone-lined landscaped area here. Oh no, they do. Yeah, planting bed. Okay, so the planting bed that you saw there with the boulder edging will stay there. And there'll be a sanitary sewer connection. The building already has gas and water, but it doesn't have a drainage. So they're gonna pipe it back into the same system that the main building uses. So go back to the pictures. Maybe that's the end of the pictures. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's those, and we went through all of them.
Oh, okay. So let's see, for environmental concerns, my draft says construction within the required setbacks from the lake and the stream is generally to be avoided for water quality best practices. The current project does not improve upon this encroachment, but does not make it any worse. So for the draft recommendation, in cases such as this with encroachment into the required stream and lake setbacks, ECB encourages mitigating measures such as the use of permeable pavers to maximize ground infiltration and avoid runoff directly into the lake during heavy storm events. So again, we're kind of picking up on permeable paving as a possible way to mitigate, you know, all these hard surfaces. On the other hand, permeable paving is, you know, as Lucas pointed out, not exactly state of the art these days, or there's some questions about just how effective it is.
Mm.
Well, that
Putting
would be a place where there's not high traffic, so it, you know, it'd be a good spot for it.
Mhm.
Putting a permanent roof on that there's no drawbacks or setbacks to that, because like during the winter time, that tent comes down. There's nothing that we should be concerned about with putting a permanent roof on that structure.
As far as drainage, runoff, snow melt.
Drainage,
that type of-
runoff, snow
you're gonna
melt,
get it
ice. Yeah.
Longer time of the year, you're gonna have it concentrated.
I guess it would depend on the pitch for the sake of snow anyway. Rain, well, rain does what rain does.
But it will, yeah, like Susan's saying, it will get funneled, directed that area now year round versus just a little bit out of the year, where before without it, it'll just kind of find its level and not be focused in one spot. But that's where permeable pavers and
Would
that sort of
help.
system could come in to hopefully remediate that.
Well, French drains around the cement base, or at least even part of it would help too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think any measure to add more, to make it more permeable in that area around there would be very important. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Sarah Linda, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I think that suggestion by Edith is excellent. So I would suggest that we modify the recommendation to add a sentence. In addition, ECB recommends that a in-ground drainage system for the perimeter of the pavilion building be installed as part of the project.
Okay.
I had one or a couple more questions on the site. I guess where it's showing the stockpiling being done, was there any other place to locate that, or is that the only place it could fit in there on the site plan?
Right
Just
there.
because it's right there, right next to the creek or brook, sorry. I mean, I know it'll have all of the silt fencing and whatnot up.
So you would suggest finding a different location for the
If
stockpile?
possible, I know they're
Yeah.
probably constrained with the construction areas and not wanting to tie up, you know, any of the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little snug in there
Yeah,
because the barn is long,
Mm-hmm.
despite the part they're gonna be working on.
they can put it on the putting green, make it more challenging.
There you
Yeah.
go.
That whole area is constrained. Oh my goodness.
And the other question I had is I think it was a couple of years ago, wasn't there a portion of this little area developed before they had approval from the town?
Yeah.
I know that came up, and was it this area or just the side area that was done without permission, and basically they had to ask for forgiveness?
My recollection is that was the 40 by 80 concrete slab. They just went ahead and built it without a permit, and then they had to go in and ask for permission, and the town granted it.
So my concern is that it's progressively being more year-rounded, I guess, or I don't know, it's progressing to be a more permanent structure from what it was initially, and I don't think it's worth anything, but is this going to get turned into like a permanent place in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, were they proposing multi-season use for this? Multi-season building?
I don't think so, because from the description with the sides that are able to be rolled up and down, I don't see that. I think just a permanent roof so you don't have to take the tent up and down. Probably be cheaper to have a wedding down there in January.
Yeah.
Well, those tents can be heated if you are
Mhm.
familiar with the Christmas extravaganza.
Yeah.
uptown. And that's
Yeah.
what they have there in the big bottles of propane or whatever it is that
Yeah.
they
Yep.
burn.
King's has a beautiful setup and theirs are heated.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's not impossible.
no,
No,
just out of my budget. That's all. All right. Any other comments? So we're adding Sarah Linda's. Do we want to add? You guys okay adding just to suggest, if possible, look at an alternative location for the material stockpile,
Mhm.
Mhm.
just to prevent any sort of leaching into.
doesn't hurt to ask
Yeah,
or
we can-
suggest,
We can
right?
suggest it and put it on there, and at least it'll be in the back. It'll be aware.
Yeah,
All right, so did you get those, Kim? All right. Okay, so since there's no more discussion, can I get a motion to accept the recommendations for 21-036 for 3280 Fallbrook Park?
So move.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, so now let's go to the last one. And the last one is Parish Street Extension. And this is the southern portion that we're looking at. All right, here. And I will bring it up. When you're I think it's up further, isn't it? Up towards the top.
it is up.
Yeah.
There it
There
is.
we go, right there. Okay.
Yeah, this is a series of photos going from east to west along Parish Street Extension. So the low point here, if you look off to the right, that is a real swamp. It's it's got plants in it, but it's a very, very wet area. And then if you move ahead, when you get starting to go up the hill on the other side, this is what the woods looks like. It's on its way towards mature forest, but this is maybe, did it say it was successional hardwood or?
Yeah, we show it as a northern successional.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if some of it is that silver maple ash swamp, because some of it is definitely wet, but with fairly large trees growing up. So it's like a swamp, or forested wetland, I guess. And then you get farther up towards the crest of the hill there, and there are several farm fields that have been carved out of the woods here. So that's the next picture.
Right here.
Yeah, that's the first one. Then there's right at the top of the hill, there's another little kind of L-shaped section of wooded. And then go to the last picture, and that's at the coming down the other side. So the top of the ridge is on your left there. And then here's another field that was just recently plowed. So you get a better sense looking at the Encore map.
Yeah.
The satellite view, you get a pretty good sense of the balance between the woods and the open fields. The southernmost of two you can't even see from the road.
So there we go. All right, bring up the recommendations.
Yeah, I'll run through the referral there. So again, this is literally across the street from where the Morel subdivision, or sorry, conservation subdivision was being put in that we were gonna see, but it got pulled back, but it's kind of along those lines. So this is the sketch plan review. It's gonna have 51 single family homes on the 82 acres. with approximately, from looking through the site plan, 23 acres of conserved area.
And here's the sketch plan.
Okay, perfect. I guess the only other things, key points is, the location nearby the historical home there for William Gorham.
Mhm.
And then one of the other things that got brought up in the PRC video is I think there's a forthcoming wetland delineation being planned for out there just to determine the boundaries of that wetland area. And I'll kind of touch that when we get into the environmental concerns, just as kind of a layout for some of the houses that are proposed, as well as that stormwater management area that basically abuts right up to it. Again, just running through the list of the open space, the property is like the Morel, it's in a scenic view shed. It does have environmentally sensitive areas, like we had mentioned before, with the regulated wetlands, which are identified as a deep emergent marsh, as well as a portion of the site being northern hardwood forest. I know in the last year or so, that took a pretty good beating from the logging they did in there. So I don't know what stage, what the status is of those hardwoods that are in there right now. And there was some other little unique eco habitats in there that are just off the property. There's some hemlock woods that were identified in there. The scale, I couldn't really get down there to see where it was particularly, but in the area. So a pretty unique area, as well as the soils there. The soils there are mostly honey oil loams on steep slopes. Obviously, that comes with a medium to high erosion potential. And the soils themselves are actually considered good farmland. And it's not in the strategic farmland protection area, but they are identified as of statewide importance. Yeah, this also under the concerns I pointed out, and I know Doug had mentioned in one of our other meetings, as well as just when you drive by there, you can see when there are large storm events, there's pretty significant washout that occurs. I think in the one photo you could kind of see in that, I guess it would be the more northern field there, the really narrow one. There's a pretty good gully wash that goes through there continually that's pretty eroded out. So that's something to be concerned for in the development of the area. Just because it does occur there. Portions of it are visible from the lake, mostly those higher, I guess that little circle of homes up there, that has lake view up there. The actual parcel itself, conservation wise, was moderate, kind of in the middle of all the colors there. And I guess it's broken down into multiple conserved areas. There's a CE1 and 2. That's what gets to the combined 23 acres. There's a little 5-acre island in the middle of those homes there. Yep. And then the larger portion that's up there. And then the last environmental kind of point I had there was just, however that comes in with the delineation that they're proposing to do out there, is just, there's some setback issues with some of those parcels that are located there to the west of that wetland area that they might need to be adjusted, I guess, if that's going to occur for that setback there, as well as, I wasn't quite sure for, I guess, what the rules are for stormwater management and how that applies. Because I know for like the structures and development areas, there's a certain setback, but for stormwater management, is there a certain setback for wetland areas? Because when you look at the photos and where that's proposed, I don't really see where the barrier is between them. Because it's all that low-lying area where when you drive by, it's right by that fire hydrant there.
Your concern is these merging?
Yeah, you'd get all the runoff from there kind of spilling over into the wetlands, and that could have its own impacts. Yeah, so if you go this whole area here of where it's going to be tied in, I know that shrub and stuff isn't really identified as wetland area on the actual site plan, but I don't know, I'd just be curious when that delineation comes back where it is, because that's where they're citing it right now. I mean, that'll be a significant amount of water that gets put down there from the development area. So I guess
All
for
right.
the recommendations, the ECB recommends that the applicant obviously minimize disturbance and development in the steep slope areas. Oh, sorry, I didn't touch on that, but that's another sensitive area up there. I mean, there's slopes in the area that are greater than 40%, particularly where the eastern homes are going to be developed, and actually some of the parcels are encroaching into that steep slope area. And I know there was a question that was brought up during the PRC, just, based on that. I think you guys might already be changing that out. I wasn't sure how, I mean, it was a couple weeks ago now for the site plan itself. Just how the layouts of that would actually occur. Again, a large portion of the wooded area is going to be removed to accommodate some of the homes that are in there, so that a considered effort should be made in, I guess, the landscape plan, kind of to mitigate the loss of all those trees that are in there, as they are identified as northern hardwoods. And then, yeah, I guess this is one of the things that stuck out to me when I was going through it, is just how the conservation areas are set up. You got the one little island, they're kind of connected, but you have the road and some of the houses in between them. So it's just the whole idea of, we want to make it as contiguous as possible so that we have this larger swath of connected conservation areas to the surrounding areas themselves. So you go from up here to, I guess, the northwest portion of it down to a little circle, and then it looks like a little outlet there on the eastern side there. That will go over to the other wooded areas and whatnot there. And then there's also, I didn't know what was going to happen with that wooded area that's identified on there, the 5 acres on the southwestern corner. If that was something that could be, considered for going into that conservation area as well, just to add on to what's currently identified. Because right now it's not showing as being developed or anything other than just it's being identified.
Okay. Anything else on that?
Yeah, the last couple of points were just, if we can recommend it, since there is going to be pretty extensive trails going in or recommended for the Morel development that would actually lead up to Miller Park and kind of have that connectivity. I didn't know if there was going to be something similar for this project, so that ultimately, people would be able to go from that development, I guess, the southern portion to the northern portion and on further to the park, as well as the proposed trails that might connect eventually over the years coming out of Canandaigua, just to have that nice large loop there, I guess, for public use. But then, hopefully that gets put into the plan there. And then, yeah, that's the only things that I had for the recommendation. We already touched on the wetland buffer.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
Oh, again, when you put in the recommendations mitigating the loss of the hardwoods and the wooded areas, how, I don't know how I phrase it. How well are the developers adhering to that? And the other thing, Jared, if you can go back to the picture, can you show us kind of where the entrance for that would be? No, yeah, the pictures.
I'm trying to guess here. Going up here, I don't know, because that's the lowland there.
Yeah, I think it's up by where they have the for sale sign.
The
Right up
sign,
in there?
okay. I guess the only thing, I mean, I live just down the road from that, and I know that people don't go slow on that road, And, you know, if you're coming over the hill, that's going to be increased traffic and, you know, obviously, hopefully it would be well marked, but I guess that would be another concern. That's not really a environmental concern, but more of a traffic.
Mhm.
But, and also I'm wondering when you show the site plan again, why they, and I'm sure the developers have a reason for this, why they can't go through the existing farm field, you know, where those are to the west, the single family homes are to the west. And I mean, it almost looks like they're cutting directly through the wooded area. Is that correct?
Yeah, some of it, and again, it looks like there's steep slopes, I guess, identified on several portions of that. I don't know if it's to
Mhm.
try to, I think what he had mentioned in the videos, they're trying to run the road on the ridge line so that the homes weren't sticking higher up than they needed to be to kind of protect, I guess, the view shed, I think was the
Yeah.
intent. But yeah, I mean, obviously that, you know, it could be depending on, I guess, the worth of the woods there and what you're protecting.
Right. Because I know one thing that's happened with me here, because I'm at Quail Bush across from the eye care center. And of course, we had the hammocks developed and, you know, I appreciate all the wildlife that comes here, the deer, the fox, whatever. And since a lot of the development has happened, I don't get that, that nature stuff anymore. So, you know, and we are disturbing their habitat, which is, you know, a concern for me.
Where if there would be easier ways to preserve as much of that as possible.
Yes, absolutely. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, and I think by putting the recommendation in there, just to have that larger contiguous conservation area as opposed to chunking it off and
Yes.
having a here, a bit
Right.
there, you know, obviously that'll be more conducive to the wildlife.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That was the only question I had.
I mean, it's not a recommendation, but you touch on it in the concerns. You know, I worry about the impact of the view shed. And that impact, I hear it all the time about Middle Cheshire Road.
Mhm.
And people are so upset about what's happened there because you can't get away from it. It's everywhere. You can see those new buildings. And because once the view shed's gone, it's gone, just like land and just like any sort of resource that we have. So that's a big concern that I have about any of this on those hillsides in a prominent location, just to protect that.
And I realize we have to, you know, we have to have development. We have to have that to exist. But I mean, once you get rid of those natural resources and the wooded areas and things like that, you've lost them forever. So, you know.
Right. Well, I think overall with this and the Morel project, it's a good concept because you're going to have a large conserved area,
Yes.
you know, between both sides of the roads. And, you know, if it's done right, it's even better because you'll have these larger swaths of protected woods, wetlands, you know, in these conservation areas, as well as if any trails are put in on this side, like what's going to be proposed on the other side, then, you know, there's multiple benefits to the public too on top of it. It's just, I guess, aligning all those values in the proper way or to make it workable.
Yeah. And I would hope if it goes through that it, you know, future developers follow that pattern that the Morels did with their most recent one, being very responsive, they listened, they were responsive to requests and concerns and took all the best practices and put them together into what they were going to do to, you know, provide their best product, but also best protection of resources.
Right.
And the neighborhood and the environment and the neighbors around.
Yes.
We have a clarification on the site plan about what the different colors mean, because
It's hard to see.
the green is proposed as conservation area.
Yeah,
But I don't know what the brown is exactly. I mean, the brown is sloped, but is that also proposed conservation area, or is it, and if it's not, who's going to own that? Or who's going to own the conservation area for that matter?
Yeah.
Just a general question that we keep raising, that
Mhm.
Mhm.
the details of this really need to be worked out early on. And if it's the
Right.
town that's going to be holding the easement, they have to get the town board to agree to that. And if the town board doesn't want to hold it, then we need to have another, the details of ongoing ownership and management of the conservation area
Yeah.
need to be, suggested up front as part of the whole site plan process.
And that conversation was had with the property to the north.
Right,
And,
right.
just, and the consensus for that one was not to keep it in an HOA and not turn it over to the town.
Mm.
So that conservation land, speaking just for myself, that's where I am. Because with the conservation subdivisions, to get that bonus, one of the options is that land gets public access, but the public can have access even if it's under the control of an HOA, rather than being deeded over to the town for maintenance and upkeep. If I explain that well enough.
You almost have to rely on an HOA to make certain that, that's maintained to be natural, or
Right.
they seem to be the most likely force that we have to keep those in check.
Yes, because of all the legalities around them. I mean,
Yeah.
they're registered organizations, and it's not like they can just fold up and disappear at the end of the day. They are set, registered, controlled by the state government.
Mhm.
Especially on a place like this with, like Justin said in his explanation, these lots are butting up to that steep slope.
Yeah.
That's not conserved, so technically that wouldn't be HOA. And I think if I understood the other day correctly, these steep slopes count as, correct me if I'm wrong, they can count as conserved space
Yes,
because they're not buildable, so they all go into the calculation of conserved space.
I do believe that's how it works.
So that's a
Yeah.
great question that Sarah Linda had. It's like, yeah, so should these be brown and green because they're steep slopes / conserved spaces
Yeah, true.
under the control of the HOA?
Yeah.
Then these lots would be that raises the question of these lots right here too.
Mhm.
I have one suggestion on this, which is that they consider shifting the roadway to the west. Because right now you've got house lots, which are almost half, in some cases, steep slopes, which
Mhm.
limits their usefulness as a backyard.
Mhm.
And also have conservation area, which is already plowed fields, which
Mhm.
you're just leaving alone. And then you're taking what's now wooded and clearing it for home construction. So wouldn't it make more sense to have the houses in the area that already is cleared, and then you can leave the woods alone and
Yes.
have the steep slopes and the other wooded areas be the conservation land?
So you're suggesting looping it this way in through here.
Yes.
Shifting it
Mhm.
over.
That also,
Yeah.
that also would have the benefit of no longer being visible from the lake, because the houses would not be on the ridge, they'd be over the other side of the ridge.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I don't know why they didn't do that. I mean, it seems like the western side of the site is easier to develop, and yet they're putting their development into the more difficult part of the site. So I don't get that.
Is it for the lake views that are up top there?
It could be for the view from a second story.
Could be.
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming. I don't have a plan to see if there are second stories, but I think that we don't know that right now. But I would think like a view overlooking the slopes down to the lake.
I don't know, if those woods remain intact, they're not really going to have a view because there are all those trees in the way.
We're gonna see
And
trees.
Certainly don't want them to tear
Mhm.
down all the trees just so
No.
that people can have a
Right.
view.
No, but I do like that idea of shifting, making it a suggestion to shift the road, or even separate a couple of these and bring the road up in through here somewhere, reconfigure it to preserve
Mhm.
this area intact.
Yeah, and I don't know, like the actual entrance to the street, that might be constrained by, I don't know, have to
They-
talk
they
to Jim
might be
about that because of the site distance.
They might be constrained as you get closer to the top of the hill, because it's got to be here, and I can't be, it's all DOT and sight lines,
Mhm.
so they might be stuck.
But once it gets into the property, it can.
They can go wherever they want.
Mhm.
I had a question from earlier. So for like the HOA at Morel, when they'll be maintaining and all of that, does the town have any input, like on a yearly review to make sure everything is where it's at, or not even that?
That could be written into the rules of the HOA
Okay.
to make sure, you're saying to make sure that it's maintained and it doesn't
As a
just go-
natural habitat and doesn't
Yeah.
get mowed over and.
people don't mow it down, people don't put a baseball field out there, or anything like that. Yeah, that can get written into it. And I know there are a few at that one. I know it's not the property we're talking about right now, but there are other things that could,
Okay.
other benefits, things that could be put in there when everything is said and done, and at the final stage of, okay, these are the bylaws for the HOA. And like that one, I believe it's some HOAs you pay based on your percentage, but this one, it's like everybody's has the equal amount. So everybody kicks in the same. They're two different types, and it's escaping me the exact name of the exact difference between the two. But one, it's like everybody shares, the whole HOA controls that, and the other one, it's based on size or lot portion.
Mm.
I could be totally mashing that up, but I remember there are some differences in the way HOAs are set up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I could just be making it up.
Yeah, no, and in doing that, I mean, that's a good, I guess, litmus test for this project. If it seems to work for that,
Yeah.
obviously that'd be the preferred route for this as well.
Right, and that, I think, so, yeah, I mean, I'm not proposing it, but that's,
Right.
if it
Just we
can be,
avoid like, what was the other project down by the hammocks, that little spot there, trying to determine
Metro,
times back and forth who was. gonna be-
Metro's one, the one between Hammocks and Thomas's house.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if it were in that type of situation, I know that the newer type of HOA that has more control over the property itself, the conservation lands, is the type to go with.
Mhm.
I have one other question, which is, would it be appropriate for us to make the suggestion that the town board consider extending the sidewalk from the city limits out here to the entrance to this subdivision? And it's conceivable that the developers of this, as well as the Morel people on the other side of the road, would both benefit from this.
Mhm.
And that would, particularly if there's going to be public use of trails through here, that would be a very nice amenity for the town to have pedestrian access there without just walking on the road shoulder.
Right, are you saying that the town look to do it, or ask developers to help as part of some of the upgrades that they're doing for the project?
I'm not sure. I don't know who should pay for it, or
Right.
whether it's legitimate to try to make the developers pay for it. If the town thinks they can get away with that, by all means, but
Right,
there's a lot of it that would benefit other property owners as well. So
right,
I just like to get it onto the radar screen, and with the statement that the ECB would like to see a plan for the Parish Street sidewalk to be extended to the entrance to this
Mhm.
subdivision.
yeah, I mean, we do identify that in that proposed general trail locations map. It's in one of those set areas.
Oh, okay, good.
yeah,
What is it, T16, the trail sidewalk connection, Miller Park to Route 520 and County Road 16.
Oh, yeah, I think that was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, that was a suggestion for extending Bristol Road,
Mhm.
a sidewalk along Bristol Road. So this one would be, I think one or the other would make sense. And maybe Bristol Road makes more sense because it's a shorter distance, and
And there's a traffic light.
And there's a
Right.
traffic
We
light.
have a
Yeah,
traffic
that's another
light.
thing, yeah. So, but this subdivision would benefit from that as well, because people could walk through the Morel subdivision to the sidewalk and then down to the city.
Yeah.
So it might be legitimate to ask these developers to contribute toward that.
Mhm. And you have
The
Verizon. there too, which
townhomes
would
at
benefit.
the end of Parachute Extension, do they have any trail or sidewalk network down there that could tie in?
You mean the hammocks?
No,
No.
the ones that come off of,
Oh, the villas at
The
Cheshire. Glen.
villas, no,
yeah,
I don't know.
don't think so.
their interior connects
okay.
to it down here somewhere. I know that you can walk out and you can, it exits, so you right up where you see Lighthouse. The that place there. But I don't know that there are no sidewalks leaving that area. All right, so good discussion. Any other comments on this one? So is everybody comfortable adding in the suggestion to move the road to avoid the move the entrance or the interior roadway, if possible, to avoid the ridge line, and to investigate the potential of sidewalks to connect these projects to the existing sidewalks that we have.
And then the third one would be to firm up the terms of the ownership of the conservation easement.
Yeah,
Yes,
Yes.
especially if we're looking at, too many tabs open right now. Let's see if I can find it. Probably, there we go. Especially if this steep slope is counted in the conservation, then that's got to be adjusted. But moving your homes this way might help with that.
Yes.
So
That's a really good suggestion. Yeah.
yes. All right, well, good discussion on that one. So can I get a motion to approve the preliminary comments on 21-3-038 with the suggestions that we added?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay. All right, so onto old business for our newsletters. Any updates anyone would like to share on upcoming newsletters or articles April through August?
Okay, do you want to talk, Edith?
Oh, I just wrote an article about native bees, mason bees and leafcutter bees, and sent it to Pat, and did a page on making your own bee house, which is all of them are suitable for kids. And Pat had a nice graphic on honeybees, which of course the native bees are not, but they're all great little pollinators. So that's what's up with those.
So Sarah Linda just provided us with a really great birding article, and that was for this month of May. And Edith's is coming for June, and then we'll have to track down Mr. Rocky to see what interests him for July. Maybe I scared him off. Maybe he thinks I want him to write it. Good for him. So we're gonna figure out what July could be.
Yeah, July's
That's
TBD.
where we are.
And we've got August for waste recycling.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'll talk about trash in August.
That sounds great.
Trash talking, yeah.
Yep.
Sounds great.
All right, the display case.
Yes, the display case has currently the tree sort of display, which I was waiting for Rocky to come up with the children's art, which was a really good suggestion from Sarah Linda, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him. And so I put up bird pictures, and I kind of identify the bird theme with it. until I can access some tree pictures. However, at the rate we're going, it'll be time to change it out again soon. So we may have to do the tree Arbor Day thing later on or next year or something.
Okay. Maybe
We can
get-
always, if you have some something that you would like to have up for August for the trash, that would be an interesting display too. So
Yeah, I could.
let me know about that.
Yeah, I can reach out and see if we can find any examples.
Okay.
I mean, not bad examples, but not just random garbage.
No, but we could put like some of the small compost bin in it.
Yeah, compost bin,
Things like that. So,
examples of the average,
Good idea.
the football that Caitlin uses to talk about the average amount of garbage.
Yes,
All
yes,
her little catchy things that she does
yes.
there. But we don't want my green bucket because I found that after a long winter, because we had been composting in the backyard, and I found the green bucket that had a mostly green bag inside of it.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, yeah. We won't use that one.
Well, mine's pretty clean if you need to use it.
All right. So item number 3, that I just wanted to pass that along to all of you about that email that I received. And I shared that with Chris Jensen, and he assured me that that is on their radar as far as the floodplain. And I thought it was, and I told the resident who shared it that I would pass it along. He wasn't opposed to the project. He's like, he just wanted, as you saw, he just wants for them to avoid the problems that they've faced and trying to build there with the amount of water that can come through there. So that was just for your information type of thing. So no discussion or no action is needed on that one. The comprehensive plan, any comments for the comp plan from the ECB? I think this has been dissected and digested and changed and updated. I have mine, but they're not ECB ones, so I won't take up any more of our time with that one. Okay. The next one, the new business number 1, that resolution, it was pulled, so there was no action taken on that by the town board. So that is not something that we need to discuss. We don't have any questions, or there's no action that we can take on that one. And that, I believe, takes us to and also number 2 from the solar policy. We did have, there was a presentation on a group coming in for solar asking for a pilot from the town as far as what they could, as far as help with their solar project. So that did come up in discussion. So I think we're going to be seeing more of that coming along as in the next year, as the years go forward. With that, I don't know if anybody has any questions on that or comments on that before I move on.
So that's solar farm development or use of solar generated energy in the town?
Okay, so that is solar. The group that presented to us at the meeting was looking for solar farm development and looking for some pilot relief because it's not sustainable without it. And I don't know right now where the appetite is for that as far as providing that with the cost versus the benefit of that. But we do need to, I know that the solar plan was updated, but that's something that we need to continue to look at as far as promoting solar use within the town, not necessarily through solar farms, but solar use. All right, any reports from the CIC? Pat said she skipped out on this one, so we'll go over that. We'll skip over that one. Sarah Linda, anything from the history team?
Nothing new, except I wanted to ask Edith to give me a call one of these days about the Ononda Park interpretive panels. I was hoping to get to get together with you and also somebody from Parks, so we can talk about the 3 panels and what goes on and, you know, get some details going.
I will certainly do that.
Thank you.
All right, and I know I did get a text from Leaf during the meeting. I think his agenda got buried as well in his spam, so that's why he's not with us. And I'm trying to multitask. I can't do 2 screen. I'm like, how can I do 2 screens agenda and text people back and forth? It just didn't work, so I ignored him. But I'll let him know after the meeting. Tree board, any updates?
Yes, we met with the City of Canandaigua Tree Board yesterday and discussed each of our projects. Saturday, we will be touring the last of the cemeteries and the upland of Ononda Park to assess trees and do some surveying. One of the projects that the city has done that was interesting is to identify remarkable trees and nominate them as something, as a landmark tree for various reasons. And I think that's something that would probably be of interest in the town too. I can think of several places that are on town property. The big tree that's on the lake side of Ononda Park that is probably from when it's probably, you know, 150 years old. It's enormous. Was probably planted to be a lightning rod for the farmhouse originally. And there are a couple of trees in a cemetery that we looked at near Seneca Point and so on. But other people have remarkable trees on their property that they might like to have identified and given a certificate or something.
Yeah.
I can think of a few that are really quite notable. Some people, you know, it's a place, a thing that people do enjoy looking at sometimes, the catalpa trees at the end of Cooley Road when they're blooming and things like that. So we have some projects on. We did plant a tree for Arbor Day and at Outhouse Park. And we are gathering suggestions from interested people about what kinds of trees might be planted in various areas. I'm holding out strongly for native species, of course, but we are interested in your thoughts too.
I like that nominate a tree idea. I like a tree of the month or a tree of fame.
Yes, well, we could certainly put a photograph of the remarkable tree in
Put it
the
on there in the
newsletter.
website,
Yeah.
in the newsletter on the website and say, hey, check this tree out.
Yes. Oh, there's a wonderful oak tree just north of my house on New Michigan Road that I wish was in my yard. It's enormous. I will nominate it. Along with the catalpas when they're blooming.
Maybe that would be a good topic for your display case.
Certainly it would.
Great, you know, took great pictures of these special
A tree.
and then you
Yes.
have a map with little, you know, thumbtacks in it with the locations. That
Sure. I think a tree tour would be a great thing. Okay.
But I do like that idea of having something there and people to brag about their trees, because it takes a long time to
Well,
get a
yeah.
good tree.
Well, you know, we talked about the cottonwood tree on the shoreline that has the eagle nest in it when we were talking about some development that they were planning on that property. That would be a great one to identify. And maybe it would help people value those trees more.
Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, anything from conservation easement? I don't know if we have anybody here who's on that. I know there was a presentation and it's close to, it's on the website if you want to watch the presentation on the whole process and updating the whole process of the easement subdivisions, making them so they fit our needs to the best that they can. All right, we're getting close to the end. Now, just remind you the dates, any of the trainings that you might need. And those are online. Those have been good if you've been able to attend any of those. Our next meeting is June 3rd, 4:30 p.m. I'm assuming we'll still be by Zoom unless things change. I don't think things change. I don't see things changing much by then, but also, you know, hopefully when we get open, this Zoom and this recording will be an option so we can have, it's nice having these meetings recorded so people can go back and see them, and we have that as a record. One thing I do want to bring up to your attention, July 1st, if we don't have a co-chair by then or a co-facilitator, I might need to look to reschedule that unless somebody wants to jump up. It's my in-laws' 60th wedding anniversary. So we will be heading to Maine for like a 3-day whirlwind trip to get up there. So just put that, we can talk about that next month if we want to choose a different date for that. So be thinking of what the beginning of July looks like for you guys. The meeting scheduled for July 1st. And then one last thing that, you know, Lee's not here to talk about it, but we were talking today, figuring out ways we can bring attention to the invasive plant species that are out there, and the damage that they are doing. I wrote it down, the olive, what's the olive called?
Autumn olive.
All
Oh,
of, yeah.
So there's the olive and then the wild forsythia. Is that the other one that just keeps growing and taking over?
That's honeysuckle.
Honeysuckle, yeah. Uh-huh.
So,
And
And
buckthorn.
buckthorn.
Oh.
Ah,
yeah, anybody who's done pictures of some of these lands that knows the buckthorn, and I'm trying to deal with that myself.
yes,
Some
me too.
trails we're making at home, and it's just, yeah. You know,
Horrible.
yeah,
horrible stuff.
you could,
Multiflora rose, this all over the place too.
yeah. So we were talking about even putting that out there, and just as a how-to guide for property owners, like if you see these and you want to keep the value of your property up and don't want it being taken over, here are some ways that you can mitigate those things. Not an overall town-wide effort, but putting it out there as an educational piece. So that's something that's kind of floating out there on the back burner.
Mhm.
So like to create a little flyer, maybe?
Yeah, a flyer, something to stick into the newsletter. You know, because a lot of people, you know, if you're a new property owner or even a long time, it doesn't take long before you've realized that you've lost several acres or to these things. And if you see them, how to remediate them. You know, some of them, just cutting them down at the top isn't going to get rid of them because they're going to keep crawling up, popping up underground. Their roots are going to spread.
Mhm.
But just ways, just an informational, educational piece. It's like, here, if you see these and you're trying to maintain your woods and trying to keep and encourage the trees that you want, here are some species that you might want to you want to remove if you can.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, brush killer, yes.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
what we're getting at.
Oh, I am trying to get rid of the buckthorn out of the woods. Apparently the woods on this place were high graded maybe 30 years ago, and nobody took care of anything, and the buckthorn is rife.
Mhm. Yep.
And my little chainsaw and me and the loppers and the brush killer are having the rest of my lifetime hobby here.
Yeah. And then you can save them and, you know, make a pinpoint map or something out of all the thorns that you pull out of there. So, all right. Well, does anybody else have anything to bring up? Any other last items or comments?
Exemplary navigation, Jared.
Oh, thanks. Other than
Thank you.
other than the next thing I'll have to do is open up the town pages and have those all ready to go. Then I'll have about 8 million tabs up. We'll figure it out. Thanks.
Thank you.
What's that?
Excuse me. Could we talk about the procedures for the referrals? And that
Yes.
is about BCC and whether it makes sense to circulate them beforehand.
Yeah, so here, one of the concerns is, since this is a board and we follow the open meeting laws, the concern is if there's a topic that is discussed through email, say a referral comes in and one person makes comments on it and says, no, I think here's something we should look at. Maybe you should consider changing this piece. That technically, if that is replied to everyone, that's a discussion that should take place in an open meeting. So there are a few comments that were put out there. One would be to send out the referrals as a blind copy. So we get copies of the referrals, but you don't have that email response back and forth. We can talk about them, but we just can't talk policy or suggestions about them. If that makes sense. Any recommendations or changes that we might want to make to them, then it crosses that line into the open meeting. So the discussion comes to, when do we want the referrals? This is what you're getting at, Sarah Linda. When do we want them? Who do we want them to go to? And to make sure that we follow those procedures.
Well, and the third thing that Chris Jensen brought up is if these are, well, he suggested that they be posted on the board site and basically made available to the applicant before the meeting. So I was curious whether most of the members of the ECB look at the referrals beforehand, because if you're really coming into the meeting cold and depending on the presentations for the information about it, then I'm not sure there isn't any necessity to circulate them beforehand. But on the other hand, if people are reading them and they really want them beforehand so that they can understand what's being proposed, then I think we should circulate them, and maybe the BCC is the proper technique to use. But we still have that question of, are we going to make these public?
Mm-hmm.
So what I fear is that if we do make them public, then the applicants may decide that they need to come to our meeting or send their engineer to our meeting, and make it more complex than it really needs to be, given that we're only an advisory body.
Yeah, that's what I keep going back to, that this is an advisory board. It's not a policy making board. We don't vote up or down on something like the planning board might or the zoning board might. It's basically opinions and suggestions for that.
So if you don't distribute them to the whole group, and if I'm looking over a proposal and had some specific questions and called Sarah Linda or Justin, I mean, that would not be a problem, right?
No, that would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
The rule, the open meetings rule is any meeting where a quorum is present has to be a public meeting. So as we have 4 board members, any more than 3 sitting discussing. So if the three of you ran into each other at Wegmans and we're bouncing ideas off, 3 is fine. But if a 4th joined and was talking about it, then that's violating open meeting laws.
Yeah. Well, I would think keeping them private until the meeting time. Otherwise, I would think this public dissemination would cause difficulties, as Sarah Linda pointed out.
Yeah. And there's plenty of time for discussion, for presentation at these. I think everybody, my time here, everybody, the presentations do a great job going in depth, looking at all the details. The recommendations are solid, and there is always a fair discussion for everything from what I've seen as far as the projects. And it's that part that there's a good discussion that takes place. So do we want it? So we will. So I guess what we'll keep. So those who do the recommendations and do the site reports, you can email them to me so I have copies of them, so I can share them on the screen while we're doing it. So, and that can be whenever it's convenient prior to the meeting. So they won't be attached to the meeting minutes, but I'll have them and I'll be able to put them up on the screen during the meeting. Does that sound good going forward? Unless we hear otherwise, but I don't anticipate there being an issue with that.
And then I would just need a copy after the meeting.
Yep, and then I can forward the official. Yeah, I can, because I can just zip that off to you from the email that I get after.
Perfect.
All right. And thanks for bringing that up, Sarah Linda, for reminding us of that one. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thanks, everybody. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, thanks, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
We'll probably be 80 degrees by the time we see you next.
Let's hope.
It'll be the
I
beginning of
hope.
June.
I'm all ready.
Okay.
It'll be first summer. Gary's like, it's 80 degrees outside. I'm going out right now.
All right.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.